So we are looking for strategic interventions within this strategic diversity plan and not just simplistic initiatives. Okay. So again, those strategic interventions require thought, they require time, they require details, and they actually require lots of transparency because we want to develop this intervention, this diversity plan, not in a silo. We don't just give this to someone to do and say, come out when you have it, right? This should be something that's transparent and put together as an organization so that we all know how we're moving and striving to do this. Hello, and welcome to this topic on strategic diversity planning. And really, how do we build a strategy? And what, most importantly, data and metrics do we need to use in order to make sure that that strategy is ongoing and actually doing what we want it to do? Strategic diversity planning is truly an ongoing process. It should not be something we just write, make it pretty now, because a lot of people have it on their websites and almost, I say, put it on the shelf, but put it in the internet world and just let it be. No, it should be ongoing. It should be a process that actually kind of maps, controls, and evaluates where we are on our organization's diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, whatever names you call it, whatever efforts those are, right? Most DEI leaders, when I say DEI leader, diversity inclusion leader, if you have a diversity inclusion council, they'll just start Googling, right? Strategic diversity plan. And that's okay. But if you just take something off the internet and try to, make it yours, I can tell you right now, it's not a truly strategic diversity plan for your organization because there is no one size fit all. It must be customized. The only way you're going to see progress is actually that it reflects what you as an organization needs. So it must be aligned to your organization's purpose, your organization's practices, and your organization's priorities. So it's not an initiative, right? Something simplistic. If you just say, oh, we're going to have diversity training, I would probably say to you, is that the strategic plan, or is that just one goal or strategy at more so in the strategic plan? Right? So something simplistic is we're having diversity strategy, it's mandatory, here's the date, times, locations, or it's on the website, yay. And at the end, we made course evaluations. Woo, we're doing a diversity plan. No, probably not. A strategic diversity plan or strategic intervention is we need diversity training because we found there's a gap in, right? And you say a gap in, well, that depends upon your organization. So, how would you know that? You should have what? Created a needs assessment. Really looked at again, what does your organization want to learn? What have they put in the space of individuals that what do they need? And then that diversity training should almost be like a roadmap, right? There should be evaluation metrics. How will we know it's successful? Is there a pilot? Are we assessing the impact and the follow up and the improvement? And then we're going to roll it out, right? That's different than we're just scheduling diversity training, right? So we are looking for strategic interventions within this strategic diversity plan and not just simplistic initiatives. Okay. So again, those strategic interventions require thought, they require time, they require details, and they actually require lots of transparency because we want to develop this intervention, this diversity plan, not in a silo. We don't just give this to someone to do and say, come out when you have it, right? This should be something that's transparent and put together as an organization so that we all know how we're moving and striving to do this. So how do you do this? I mean, how do you? Well, first, you're going to, again, make a needs assessment about where do you stand on what we know in the DEI space as the diversity development continuum. Okay, so basically, there's a continuum that exists that shows are we basically at the bottom, like basic foundationally, or are we to a point of integration? So there's a diversity development continuum. The AICPA, or the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, they have an accounting maturity model, which is under their diversity and inclusion session. And so you could look into that. But you first need to know where you stand. Are we at the basic level of the diversity learning, diversity improvements, diversity strategy, or we are point of integration? Because again, our strategy has to be what? Customized. So it has to be where we're starting so that we know where we're going. Now, once we can figure that out, where we stand, then you have kind of what you want to do baseline. So you can gather your baseline data, okay? Based upon your baseline data, then you should be able to benchmark in the diversity, equity, inclusion space, kind of where you stand. And then you're going to what? I told you it's ongoing. You're going to constantly track and report your progress. So you can what? Continue to move on a continuum. So let's go a little deeper into that. What do I mean? So one, diversity measurements are ensuring that we use factual information. So you may say, well, how do I know where we're on the continuum? Well, I'm just going to pick. No, you're actually going to get some data first. And so we're going to talk about what kind of data you're going to get. Because the adage of what gets measured gets done. What gets measured gets done. So this reinforces that this entire process should be data-driven and absolutely strategic with success metrics. We're no longer or should not be in the business of diversity, equity, inclusion work just because it's the right thing to do. We may all believe that. But how do we actually move on the continuum? How do we actually get individuals that may be naysayers or bystanders even, meaning they're just standing around, I wonder if this is going to work. Well, the only way you're going to be able to prove that it is working is if we what? If we measure it. We measure sales, we measure profits, we measure, how we enter into agreements with others. We measure all kinds of other stuff. We can absolutely measure diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what are some things you're going to first do? Well, first, what do we measure? When we come in and we're doing this needs assessment, when we're trying to figure out where we are on this continuum, you're going to look to get, of course, two types of data: quantitative data and qualitative data. Quantitative data. Quantitative, right? Data that can be counted, measured, expressed in numbers, objective. It is conclusive. And then as well, we want this qualitative data that's more descriptive, can be observed, may not be quantifiable, but it's subjective and exploratory. So how do you do that? Well, again, we want to know where we exist on this continuum. So we want to know what? What does our organization think? Well, who is our organization? Our organization is our people. So you want to what? Pull data to figure out where you are. This data could be from what? Diversity data, which basically means just purely who is in our organization. So you want to look at the age, your race, your gender, how many years people have worked here. What are we doing specifically in terms of demographics? Just pulling that data is what you're going to want to do. Then you're going to want to look at possibly equity data, right? So let's pull what? Salary, benefits, doing comparative analysis of those that exist, right? How long you've been here, does that relate to the benefits that you're taking in? Looking at performance reviews, looking at who gets promoted, under which managers, how long, all of that. These are, again, quantitative data pieces, including then as well what? Turnover, tenure, right? Any climate surveys, employee survey, engagement surveys that we've done that, again, we can quantify with numbers. We then as well want to look at succession planning. We want to look at recruitment, how many job descriptions we may have in terms of policies and procedures, who's applying from where. And then absolutely our programmatic data. If we've had programs that we've taken, trainings, events, activities, and we've looked at those data, we definitely want to do that as well. So that's just some of the quantitative data we want to do. And then qualitatively, we want to do what? Talk to people. We want to engage our employees, find out through focus groups that are done by you or even a third party, possibly if you have the opportunity, to find out really how people are feeling at your organization. Are your values showing up? Are their managers actually putting into place what our leaders say? Do they know how to report discrimination? Right? There's so many other questions that you can't get purely from HR data or pulling quantitative data. So we want to again get those qualitative pieces, asking the questions. Then we're going to do what? Put all of this together again so that we can get our baseline, so that we can see where do we exist, right? If we do that, then we are here. We pulled our quantitative data, we pulled our qualitative data. This is us. This is our DEI snapshot. This is where we stand. And then you're going to look to your DEI committees or your DEI leader to really, or just someone that's been assigned to say, okay, well, what should it be? What is the best practices? What are the leading practices related to data in this space? This is how you're then going to do that benchmarking. So you want to look at where you are, what should be from a leading practice, and guess what? Your strategy, your DEI strategy is what? What's in between? How can we get to the leading practice? If we have 5% African Americans, let's just say, at our accounting firm, and the benchmark is all minorities are 13%. How can we get there? What strategies can we use? Do we need to partner with some professional organization? Do we need to do career fairs? Do we need to go to historically Black colleges and universities? Do we need to focus on our recruitment? Do we need to focus on our retention? Right? All of that is in the middle. So the data gathering is key. And applying that then to your baseline, your benchmark, your baseline to your benchmark, so that we can get what? The strategy in between. That's how we're going to use data to be data driven. And once we set up those pillars, our goals. So most organizations will have goals around what? Recruitment, goals around retention, goals around, well, we're not as active in the community. Our people are saying they want to see us in the community. Then our community goals. Some people will then have what? Some type of maybe possibly supplier diversity goal, or how we're again engaging in the space. But whatever those goals are, that's then what? How we're going to constantly keep measuring. Because as we make headway, we're going to what? Need data. We're going to go back and do all of those things all over again, pulling those data points, what? At different points in time, quarterly or biannually or annually. And so that way we can again, what? See how far we are on the continuum. If we do that, we will be making sure that we are on the way, right? So we want to combine quantitative and qualitative data to get those deep insights to determine where we are. We're then going to customize that strategy so that we're using what we need to make sure what's important to our organization, our culture, our business results, and our industry. We're going to collaborate to, again, see what should be in the space. What are those leading practices? How can we acquire information so that we can be innovative and activate this all the way through integration in our organization? And then lastly, we're going to communicate. Remember what I said, we're going to be transparent in this process. We're going to invite individuals into the process and constantly communicate what we're doing, as well as ultimately communicate that strategy across the organization, because it is that communication of both the expectations and the accomplishments that are going to drive whether individuals truly believe that you're truly on the diversity and inclusion journey. So pull your data, benchmark that against others, collaborate, and communicate in a transparent way this data and all that it's going to take to truly make sure that your diversity strategy is doing what it needs to do, which is truly providing interventions so that you can be, again, a diverse, equitable, and inclusive organization.